Ooh. Boom! Thundercloud here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Hey, how are you tonight? It's Tuesday night, and it's Chillin'Tuesday here in Gyra. Oh yes, and it was a chilly day today. I'm pretty sure it didn't get up much above 12 degrees. It was a very cold wind for November. Yes. Well, let's begin by acknowledging the First Nations people and traditional custodians of the land on which I broadcast here in Gyra, the band by the Kamilaroi people. And on that note, yeah, big ups to them for their NAIDOC Family Day, which they eventually got to hold last week on Friday. So thank you very much to the Kamilaroi people and the Gyra Land Council. And yes, so tonight a bit of, I suppose it's self-indulgence, but not really, because I'm sharing with you one of the greatest Australian poets, 17th century poets of the 20th century, Alec, Derwent, Hope. I'm just going to have a sip. Raspberry, banana and cacao smoothie on almond and coconut milk. Yeah, so Alec, Derwent, Hope. That's what he looked like. There you go, have a look at him. So, a happy looking chappy. I'll read to you a bit what Wikipedia says about him here before we go into some of his poetry. He was born on the 21st of July 1907 and passed on the 13th of July 2000. So yeah, he that makes him 93. Just short of 93. He was a poet and essayist known for his satirical slant. He was a critic, teacher and academic, referred to in America's journals as the 20th century's greatest 18th century poet. So that's a pretty big accolade, actually. He was born in Cooma, New South Wales. His father was a Presbyterian minister, his mother a teacher. He was educated at home and in Tasmania, where they moved in 1911. 3 years later they moved to Sydney. He attended Fort Street High School, the University of Sydney, whilst residing at St Andrews College, and then the University of Oxford on a scholarship. Returned to Australia in 1931, trained as a teacher, spent time drifting, worked as a psychologist within the New South Wales Department of Labour and Industry, and as a lecturer in education at Sydney's Teachers College from 1937 to 1944, a lecturer at the Uni of Melbourne 1945 to 1950, became a professor of English in the new Canberra Uni College, later the ANU. When the two institutions merged, he was retired from the ANU in 1968 and was appointed an emeritus professor. He got an OBE in 1972, an Order of Australia in 1981. He died in Canberra with dementia in his last years. Although he was published as a poet while still young, The Wandering Islands, 1955 was his first collection. All that remained of his early work after most of his manuscripts were destroyed in a fire. Wow, how about that? So that's pretty sad. Its publication was delayed by concern about the effects of Hope's highly erotic and savagely satirical verse on the Australian public. His frequent allusions to sexuality in his work caused Douglas Stewart to dub him Phallic Alec in a letter to Norman Lindsay. His influences were Pope and Augustine, poets Auden and Yeats. He was a polymath, largely self-taught with a talent for offending his countrymen. He wrote a book of answers to other poems, including one in response to the poem To His Coy Mistress by Andrew Marvell. The reviews he wrote in the 40s and 50s, 1940s and 50s, were feared for their acidity and intelligence. If his reviews hurt some writers, Patrick White included, they also sharply raised the standard of literary discussion in Australia. Alright, influence and impact. Kevin Hart, reviewing Catherine Cole's Memoir of Hope, writes that when A.D. Hope died in 2000 at the age of 93, Australia lost its greatest living poet. Hart goes on to say that once asked what poets could do for Australia, Hope replied, "Oh, not much, merely justify its existence." In a 1998, a celebration of his lives and works, The Scythe-Honed Fire, was published by the National Library of Australia. Okay. Oh, what a great, huge swag of awards he got. All right, the 1956 Grace Levin Prize for Poetry, 65 Britannica Awards for Literature, 66 Australian Literature Gold Medal, Society Gold Medal, 67 Meyer Award for Poetry, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Now, I have only got 2 books here with some of his poets. These are Angus and Robertson, Collected Poems, 1930 to 1970. That's hardback, and that's the softback, the paperback, and they're both the same book. So that's it. And this goes from 1930 to 1970. So I don't have anything after 1970 from A.D. Hope. And I'm not too sure when this one, Paper Tiger, was written, that I'm going to read out first. Alright. This one, Tiger actually, or it's called Tiger, but Paper Tiger. The paper tigers roar at noon. The sun is hot, the sun is high. They roar in chorus, not in tune, their plaintive, savage hunting cry. Oh, when you hear them, stop your ears and clench your lids and bite your tongue. The harmless paper tiger bears strong fascination for the young. His forest is the busy street, his dens, the forum and the mart. He drinks no blood, he tastes no meat. He riddles and corrupts the heart. But when the dusk begins to creep from tree to tree, from door to door, the jungle tiger wakes from sleep and utters his authentic roar. It bursts the night and shakes the stars till one breaks blazing from the sky. Then listen, if to meet its soars your heart's reverberating cry. My child, then put aside your fear. Unbar the door and walk outside. The real tiger waits you there. His golden eyes shall be your guide. And should he spare you in his wrath, the world and all the worlds are yours. And should he leap the jungle path and clasp you with his bloody jaws, then say, as his divine embrace destroys the mortal parts of you, I too am of that royal race, who do what we are born to do. Tigers. So very, very, quite a powerful poem, very good for people needing motivation, young people leaving high school or university perhaps. So just to explain the metaphor there, the paper tigers are sort of like the pen pushers, the bureaucrats, the people who do the job for the sake of just doing a job. Then it goes into the real tiger. and that the sort of being true to yourself, following your dreams, being unbending and not compromising yourself so to please the group, for example. And so then say as the real tiger, clasp you with his bloody jaws, then say as his divine embrace destroys the mortal parts of you, I too am of that royal race who do what we are born to do. So those who follow their heart, the creatives, the warriors, those out there on that hero's journey, etc. Quite a powerful poem. I like it a lot. Now, two other of A.D. Hope's poems that are very well reviewed. They would be Death of a Bird and is it the Death of Pius the Twelfth? About Pope Pius the 12th, who was the Pope during World War II. There were the accusations with Pope Pius that he was a Nazi sympathiser or didn't speak out against the Nazis at the time. So I'll be reading those in just a moment as soon as I have a sip of my smoothie. Banana, raspberry, cacao, almond and coconut milk. Yummo. Here it is. I've got it all ready. Okay. The Death of the Bird. For every bird, there is this last migration. Once more the cooling year kindles her heart. With a warm passage to the summer station, love pricks the course in lights across the chart. Year after year, a speck on the map divided by a whole hemisphere summons her to come, season after season, sure and safely guided. Going away, she's also coming home. And being home, memory becomes a passion with which she feeds her brood and straws her nest, aware of ghosts that haunt the heart's possession and exiled love mourning within the breast. The sands are green with a mirage of valleys. The palm tree casts a shadow, not its own. Blow down the long architrave of temple or palace blows a cool air from moorland scraps of stone. And day by day the whisper of love grows stronger, that delicate voice more urgent with despair. Custom and fear constraining her no longer drives her at last on the waste leagues of air. A vanishing speck in those inane dominions, single and frail, uncertain of her place, alone in the bright host of her companions, lost in the blue unfriendliness of space. She feels it close now, the appointed season. The invisible thread is broken as she flies. Suddenly, without warning, without reason, the guiding spark of instinct winks and dies. Try as she will, the trackless world delivers no way, the wilderness or of light, no sign. The immense and complex map of hills and rivers mocks her small wisdom with its vast design. And darkness rises from the eastern valleys, and the winds buffet her with their hungry breath, and that great earth with neither grief nor malice receives the tiny burden of her death. Death of the Bird by A.D. Hope. Very, very powerful poem. Beautiful poem. A beautiful poem. Now, here we go. Ode on the death of Pius XII. So yeah, Pius XII was a pope from about 1937, I believe, to 1958-ish. Don't quote me on that though. Check it out online. Do Google. Ode on the death of Pius XII. To every season, its proper act of joy. To every age, its natural mode of grace. Each vision, its hour, each talent we employ, its destined time and place. I was at Amherst when this great Pope died. The northern year was wearing towards the cold. The ancient trees were in their autumn pride of russet flame and gold. Amherst in Massachusetts in the fall, I ranged the college campus to admire maple and beech, poplar and ash in all, their panoply of fire. Something that since a child I longed to see, this miracle of the other hemisphere, while forests in their annual ecstasy walked by the dying year. Not budding spring nor summer's green parade clothed in such glory these resplendent trees. The lilies of the field were not arrayed in riches such as these. Nature evolves their colours as a call, a lure which serves to fertilise the seed. How strange then that the splendour of the fall should serve no natural need, and having no end in nature yet can yield such exquisite natural pleasure to the eye. Who could have guessed in summer's green concealed the leaves resolved to die? Yet from the first spring shoots through all the year, masked in the chlorophyll's intenser green, the feast of crimson was already there, these yellow blazed unseen. Now in the bright October sun the clear, translucent colours trembled overhead, and I walked, a voice I chanced to hear announced, the Pope is dead. A human voice, yet there the place become Bethel, each bough with Pentecost was crowned, the great trunks wrapped in unconsuming flame stood as on holy ground. I thought of this old man whose life was past, who in himself and his great office stood against the secular tempest as a vast oak spans the underwood, who in the age of Armageddon found a voice that caused all men to hear it plain, the blood of Abel crying from the ground to stay the hand of Cain, who found from the great task small time to spare, for him and for mankind the hour was late, so much to snatch, to save, so much to bear, that Mary's part must wait. Until his last years the change began, a strange illumination of the heart, voices and visions such as mark the man chosen and set apart. His death, they said, was slow, grotesque and hard, yet in that gross decay until the end, untroubled in his joy, he saw the Word made spirit and ascend. These glorious woods and the triumphant death prompted me to join their mysteries. This brother Albert, this great oak of faith, those fire-enchanted trees. 7 years have passed, and still at times I ask whether in man as those in those plants may be a splendour which his human virtues mask, not given to us to see. If to some lives at least there comes a stage when all the active man now left behind, they enter on the treasure of old age, this autumn of the mind. Then, while the heart stands still beyond desire, the dying animal knows a strange serene, emerging in its ecstasy of fire. The burning soul is seen. Who sees it? Since old age appears to men, senility, decrepitude, disease, what spirit walks among us past our ken, as we among these trees? Whose unknown nature, blessed with keener sense, catches its breath in wonder at the sight, and feels its being flood with it, that immense epiphany of light. That's it. I reckon I could have read that last two paragraphs. Who sees it? Since age old appears, who sees it? Since old age appears to men, senility, decrepitude, disease, what spirit walks among us, past our ken, as we among the trees? Whose unknown nature, blessed with keener sense, catches its breath in wonder at the sight, and feels its being flood with that immense epiphany of light. Yeah, A.D. Hope. All right. So the other one I wanted to read to you is, well, it's in there, but it's also easier for me to find in here, and it's called Australia. And if I can find it sooner or later, did I bring the right book even? I did. I had it marked and I've lost the page. I've lost a page, I've lost, not the plot though. Isn't that annoying? Isn't that annoying? So I'm not even there, I'm on the wrong page. Not even back at A.D. Hope yet. Next page. Here we are, 20th century, A.D. Hope, yeah. Death of the Bird, Hayfield, 160 and 161, okay. Here, look at that, I opened right on the right page nearly, one page out, 160. Alright, so Australia, I wonder what year this was written, by the way. It might even be in here, if I look in this book, and I'll tell you roughly what year Australia was written. If it's in here. Doesn't look like it. No, it must be one of his more modern ones. Alright, Australia by A.D. Hope. A nation of trees, drab, green and desolate grey, in the field uniform of modern wars. Darken our hills, those endless outstretched paws of sphinx demolished or stone lion worn away. They call her a young country, but they lie. She's the last of lands, the emptiest, a woman beyond her charge of life abreast. Still tender, but within the womb is dry. Without songs, architecture, history, the emotions and superstitions of younger lands. Her rivers of water drown among inland sands, the river of her immense stupidity. floods her monotonous tribes from Cairns to Perth. In them at last the ultimate men arrive, whose boast is not we live but we survive, a type who will inhabit the dying earth. And her 5 cities, like 5 teeming sores, each drains her, a vast parasite robber state, where second-hand Europeans pullulate timidly on the edge of alien shores. Yet there are some like me turn gladly home from the lush jungle of modern thought to find the Arabian desert of the human mind, hoping, if still from the deserts the prophets come. Such savage and scarlet as no green hills dare, springs in that waste some spirit which escapes the learned doubt, the chatter of cultured apes, which is called civilization over there. And now hay fever. Time, with his scythe-honed fine, takes a pace forward, swings from the hips the flesh, crumples and falls in windrows curving away, waiting my turn as he swings. Not yet, not mine. I recall the sound of the scythe on an earlier day, late spring in my boyhood, learning to mow with the men, 8 of us moving together in echelon line, out of the lucerne patch and into the hay. And I at the end on the left, because I was fresh, because I was new to the game and young at the skill, as though I were time himself. I remember it still. The mild Tasmanian summer, the men are here to mow for my minister father and make his hay. They've bought a scythe for me. I hold it with pride. The lucerne is up to my knee, the grass to my waist. I set the blade into the grass as they taught me the way. The still dewy stalks nod, tremble and tilt aside. Cornflowers, lucerne and poppies, sugar grass, summer grass laced with red-stemmed dock. I feel the thin steel crunch through hollow stalk milk thistle, self-sown oats and rye. I snag on a fat hen clump. Chickweed falls in a bunch, but sorrel scatters. Dandelion casts up a golden eye. To smell of cows chewing their cuds, the sweet hay breath, the boy with the scythe never thinks of the smell of death. The boy with the scythe takes a stride forward, swings from the hips, keeping place and pace, keeping time, by the sound of the scythes, by the swish and ripple, the sigh of the dying grass like an animal breathing, a rhyme, falling pat on the ear that matches the steel as it sings, through the tottering stems, sweat runs into my eye. How long to a break? How long can I hold out yet? I nerve my arms to go on. I am running with, flooding with sweat. How long ago was it? Why, the scythe is now obsolete now, as arrows and bow. I have lived from one age to another, and I have made hay while I could, and the sun still shone. Time drives a harvester now. He does not depend on the weather. Well, I have rolled in his hay in my day, and now it's gone. But I still have a barn stacked high with that good dry mow, shrivelled and fragrant stems, the grass and the flowers together, and a thistle or two in the pile for the prick of remorse. It's good for a man when he comes to the end of his course, in the barn of his brain, to be able to romp like a boy in the heap, to lie still in well-cured hay, to drift asleep. Lovely. And that's called Hay Fever by Alec, Derwent, Hope. Well, let's go to some random sort of just pullings out. Actually, I wanted to do this one, the trophy. The builder cannot guess, nor the lover's utmost skill. In the instant of success, suddenly the heart stands still. Suddenly a shadow falls on the builder's finished plan, and the cry of love appalls all the energies of man. What dire symbol of the heart comes then from its ancient tomb? Imagine both of love and art. See the Roman soldier come. What great captain breaks his rest? All the annals cannot tell. Stone lies blank upon his breast. Bitter laurel shades him well. What great captain's rigid will checked in right his rabble host, roused them, drove them, cheered them still, though they knew the battle lost. And when the campaign was won by the single force of pride, heard the ghost within him groan, fell upon his sword and died. Oh, I'm really sorry. I need to apologise. Like, I nearly burst into laughter in the third last, because I totally mispronounced annals. And I said annals. A-N-N-A-L-S. Annals, like an annual, like a journal. But I said annals. What great captain breaks his rest? All the annals cannot tell. And then I just rose up and I'm like, realised what I said, and I'm like, I said annals, and I'm like, trying to read on, and I'm like, trying not to laugh. And it was really hard. I just wanted to go, fucked up. Well, I did. I messed up. Okay. I'm going to read that again without laughing. The trophy. This the builder cannot guess, nor the lover's utmost skill. In the instant of success, suddenly the heart stands still. Suddenly a shadow falls on the builder's finished plan, and the cry of love appalls all the energies of man. What dire symbol of the heart comes then from its ancient tomb? Imagine both of love and art, see the Roman soldier come. What great captain breaks his rest? All the annals cannot tell. Stone lies blank upon his breast. Bitter laurel shades him well. What great captain's rigid will checked in flight his rabbled host, roused them, drove them, cheered them still, though they knew the battle lost. And when the campaign was won by the single force of pride, heard the ghost within him groan, fell upon his sword and died. Yeah, there was a much better reading. I wasn't laughing halfway through it. To Julia, walking away. Darwin's daughters have no tails, yet a motion agitates the lovely frails at the seat of amputation. Charles called Eve and Adam lies and denied the garden state, yet the gate of paradise could not wholly liquidate. Julius coccyx never can, swerving in delicious shim, now to the descent of man towards fundamentalism. Darwin Pally from the dust argue in her ambulation, was Eve genuine or just? A gorilla on probation. Gorilla on probation? Oh no. Ooh, to Julia walking away, it's like he's perving at her ass. But that's what I get out of it. Julius coccyx never can, swerving in delicious schism. Charles called Eve and Adam lies and denied the garden state, yet the gate of paradise could not wholly liquidate. So it starts with, Darwin's daughters have no tails, yet a reminiscent motion agitates the lovely frails at the seat of amputation. Charles called Eve and Adam lies and denied the garden state, yet the gate of paradise could not wholly liquidate. Julius coccyx never can, swerving in delicious schism, now to the descent of man towards fundamentalism. Darwin Pally from the dust, argue in her ambulation, was Eve genuine or just? A gorilla on probation. So there's, I don't know, descent of man, it's in capitals. Maybe there's a cultural reference I'm missing there. Something. Here we go. The lingam and the yoni. So the Shiva lingam is like the phallic symbol, and the yoni is the vagina in Hinduism or whatever it is. Yeah. The lingam and the yoni. The lingam and the yoni are walking hand in glove. Are you listening, honey? I hear my honey love. The he and she, our movers, what is it they discuss? Is it the talk of lovers, and do they speak of us? I hear their high palaver. Oh, tell me what they say. The talk goes on forever. So deep in love are they. So deep in thought debating the suburb and the street, time payment calculating upon the bedroom suite. But ours is long division by love's arithmetic, until they make provision to buy a box of brick, a box that makes a prisoner that he must slave to win, to do the lingam honour, to keep the yoni in. The mortgage on tomorrow, the hemorrhage of rent, against the heart they borrow at 5 or 6%. The heart has bought fulfilment, which their mouths defer until the last instalment upon the furniture. No lingam for her money can make up youth's arrears. His lay-by on the yoni will not be paid in years, and they who keep this tally, they count what they destroy, while in its secret valley withers the herb of joy. Dragon music. No other man makes love like you, she said. His blood escaped in panic from her wound. Through the dear mouth a dragon panted flame. It lit the ancient treasures in the mound. It tore him in 4 pieces in the bed. No other lover, she said, was quite the same. She did not set them there, the 4 men all, wound in her arms, sharing his startled eyes. Cocksure, the great seducer, crowed his song. The virile bristles rustled down his thighs. The golden feathers sprouted from his tail. His heart's bronze waters smacked their mighty gong. But the slave's heart in that tremendous din burst, counting the incredible troops of lust. Her old boy's union with beer and hearty jokes held celebrations, invited him to join, published their names in alphabetical lists, danced round the bonfire of his burning sex. The observer, smiling, landed from his yacht, notebook in hand, rubbed noses with the chief. The native girl's magnificent physique makes her insatiable in love, he wrote. The surf ran moaning on the jagged reef. His camera gave the customary click. Grasping a light bough from the sacred wood, the lover explored her dark and tender dream. Among the ghosts he breathed her words for breath, till his heart, leaping in ecstasy from her stream, died on the bank, thrashing in silver death. The dragon music. The Muse to James Macaulay, January 1945. She's arcane. Instinct spins the net of her ferocious purpose in the night. On her barred nerves the dew shakes bright and wet, the angry goddess still with light. Tortures the web, for there the spider hangs in loveliness no wisdom could invent, and conscious of the poison in her fangs. She is Ariadne by the shore, watching a black sail vanish on the sea, while he, whose steps beyond the dreadful door were guided and again set free. The loutish prince forgets the path he trod, and she, though she remembers, will consent, soon to be tumbled by the drunken god. She's Penelope, night-long at the loom. She must be unravelled, the promise in her heart, subdue the monthly protest of her womb. And still she knows for all her art, while its one poor design grows out of date, the gods who have all the time too late to relent, and when her triumph comes, it comes too late. Well, if you're liking this, give it a thumbs up or a heart thingy, and then write a comment there, and even better, click on the share thing and share it to your friends so they get to see what we do here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame here in Guyra. Yeah, share it with your poetry friends, definitely. It's a very, very good idea. Share it in your poetry groups. Do it now while I'm talking. Thank you very much. Hey, here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, we have the Australian Poetry Library over there. We've got the Australian Poets Hall, Portrait Gallery, and I'm really fingers crossed, hoping to get a grant to do some great big A1 size posters with information about poets and their poetry and all of that kind of stuff. So, hey, now, if you're there on YouTube, give it a thumbs up and share it, and exactly. Put a comment down below underneath, and then click on the subscribe and the bell icon for notifications as well. Hey, I'm out of drink. I got nothing to drink. Oh well. let's go for a randomly placed found poem from Mr. Alec Derwent Hope. The Pleasure of Princes. What pleasures have great princes? These to know, themselves reputed mad with pride or power, to speak few words and short bring low, this ancient house that city with flame devour. To make old men their fathers' enemies, drunk on the vintage of the former age, to have great painters show their mistresses naked to the succeeding time engage. The cunning of able, treacherous ministers, to serve despite themselves they cause hate, and leave a prosperous kingdom to the heirs, nursed by the caterpillars of the state. To keep their spies in good men's hearts to read the malice of the wise and act betimes, to hear the grand remonstrances of greed led by the pure, cheap justice of her kinds, to beget worthless sons and being old, by starlight climb the battlements and while the pacing sentry hugs himself for cold, keep vigil like a lover's muse and smile, and think to see from the grim castle steep the midnight city below rejoice and shine. There my great demon grumbles in his sleep and dreams of his destruction and of mine. There you go. And alright, we'll get one more from A.D. Hope here, and I'm just going to go and randomly just find something from the early days of his career. The bed. Oh well, look, there's a couple of shorties here. The bed. The doctor loves his patient, the patient loves his bed. A fine place to be born in, the best place to be dead. The doctor loves the patient because he means to die. The patient loves the patient bed that shares his agony. The bed adores the doctor, his cool and skillful touch soon brings another patient who loves her just as much. Giving it up. The amputated cigarette still nags. He can't forget the lost volcanic limb, so much a part of him, the smoking finger which his crooked reaches would sketch, detachments abstract rows, his ritual of repose. Maimed of his human part, the wounded jesters start, recoil with panic shock. Thank you, I do not smoke. And where the empty sleeve hangs, grows the make-believe. Thank God, no more a slave. What willpower too I have. Trampling the hungry sense, forgets the lost pretense that served his desperate need. One habit on which freed from bullying lusts and hurts, man smokes and mind asserts. I think, and therefore I am, and do not give a damn. The return from the Feudian islands. When they heard Sigmund the Saviour in these coasts, the islanders were very much impressed, abandoned the worship of their fathers' ghosts and dedicated temples to their guests. Shocked and delighted as the saint revealed the unacknowledged body and made them see, suppressed by corsets, morbidly concealed in cotton combinations to knee. How it bred night sweats, the disease of shame, corns, fluxions, baldness, and the sense of sin. How clothes to the analytic eye became fantasies, furtive symbols of the skin. At first the doctrine took them all by storm. Urged to be stark, they peeled as they were told, forgetting their rags also kept them warm, for island climate is extremely cold. And if the old wry ugly shared some natural reluctance to begin it, enthusiasts all, the young at once declared the brave nude world that had such people in it. Till some discovered that stripping to the buff only exposed the symbol of the hide. Its sinister pun unmasked, it must come off. The saint much preach the invisible inside. The saint, though somewhat startled at this view, trapped by the logic of his gospel, spent some time in prayer and a week or two to demonstrate the new experiment. Breastless and bald, with ribbed arms, lashless eyes, with intricate bandages of human meat, with delicate ripple and bulge of muscled thighs, the first skinned girl worked primely down the street. Though there were many to admire her charms, the strappings and flexures of twig-like toes, the skeins and twisted sensitive cables of her arms, the pectoral fans, the netting of nerves and veins. Yet those who followed her example found one lack still Sigmund undertook to prove, how much their late behaviour centred round a common skin disease they had called love. And for a time they thoroughly enjoyed the brisk intolerance of the purified, in sects and schisms before the holy Freud, self-turn while lesser saints were deified. Till faith, which can never let well alone from hearsay and counter heresy, prompted the saint to bear beneath the bone the ultimate visceral reality. Long time he mused before the sacred id, long prayed before he finally began, and purged impersonal, uninhibited, produced at last the basic Freudian man. At the fertility festival that year, the skinned men blushed to see the skeleton, a bone cage filled with female guts appear, tottering before them in the midday sun. Its slats and levering rods they saw, the full cogged horseshoe grin of 32 teeth, the frantic eyeballs swivelling in the skull, the swaggering human umbles underneath. The soft, wet, mottled granite of the lung, bulge and collapse the liver worn askew. Jauntily quiver the plump intestines hung in glistening loops and bolsters in their view. And clear through gut and bowel the mashy chime churned downward, gelled in its transparent sheath, the scowling fetus tethered in the time, bomb tumour set unguessed, its budder's death. And while for them with mannequin grace she swayed her pelvis Sigmund so that none should miss, the beauty of this new world he had made explained the triumph of analysis. Pimples and cramps now shed with pelt and thews, no dreams to fright, no visions to trouble them, for where the death wish and self-knowledge fuse, they had at last the human LCM. Here the saint paused, looked modestly at the ground and waited for their plaudits to begin. And waited. There was nothing, a faint, dry sound, as first a poet buttoned on his skin. Yeah, well, that is Alec, Derwent, Hope, and that's all I'm reading out of his tonight. And now What have I got for you? A little personal poetry from myself. Today, we'll see if I got much written. No, I haven't written a lot this week in the last few days, but here we go. 6 degrees of separation. More like only one in these days, a connection. Swim, breathe, deep and run. 2 friends of mine have met Wim Hof. I'm not telling you this to get off, but it's true. 1 degree and maybe 2. Around the world in another room, it's Zoom. Now we can all collaborate. The internet makes life great. Information democratised, smartphone calls and Wi-Fi's, and the darkness cannot hide from the world with open eyes. Beware of hackers, fishers, spies. They'll have 1,000 tries. Are you hackable, trackable, locatable, searchable, watchable, discernible, securable, emailable, loginable? Log in or create new account. Forgotten password. Dexterous thumbs, blue teeth, hands-free. Surely artificial intelligence is an oxymoron. Our best friend is now a device. And our friends and followers, most of them we don't really know. They exist, they're in space and time, only 1 degree of separation from anyone on the planet. Here we go. This was reading a bit about poetry, of course, as I do. Chinese poetry has some of it has some very simple form of just a few words to express ideas. You can guess what it's about. Bones of men shattered, public housing, rubble, caterpillar of humanity, snakes in power, shock, awe, bombs of men. Yeah, I haven't really named it yet. I don't know. I don't want to call it war. Maybe of men would be. An in-depth analysis of the emoji you choose reveals your penis looks like an eggplant. You are smiling, but in a sarcastic way, bantering with that cutie, screaming in fear. As I said, I haven't written much this week. Okay. Mr. Salt and Pepper makes life nice with a little bit of extra tasty spice. Just a little shake of Mr. Salt and Pepper makes life interesting and tastes better. There's a monster yelling ooga booga. She's a honey trap named Mrs. Sugar. Mrs. Sugar tempts you with dopamine, makes you sick and fat, and she is mean. You can't have too much Mr. Salt and Pepper. Adding more tastes worse, not better. But Mrs. Sugar tempts you to eat more so you won't be able to get out the door. Here we go. Pink, mauve, sky. Sunrise, fades to blue. Crisp as a summer apple. Crow, cockatoo, emerald trees of greens. Morning peace means there's space for seasoning, the addition of spice, a touch, not too much, but enough. as crepuscular rays pierce silhouettes of trees, illuminating for our eyes to appreciate and our mind to make poetry. Here we go, two-liner. Silence is appreciated. Space for contemplation. You like that one? I do. Yeah. Big congratulations must go out to Tug Dumley for his win of for his prize. Yeah. All right. Hey, Rob, I've finished for the night, so thank you very much for joining me here on a Chillin' Tuesday here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, where it is quite chilly up here in Guyra. It's probably quite cold, actually. And we'll see you tomorrow night here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame with Wednesday Words and all the crew with a much bigger and better show with who knows what will randomly come out. And I think I definitely probably might have to do Death of the Bird tomorrow night or Tiger. Not too sure, but anyway, I better get on, write some of my own poetry, and lots of love to you. And thank you very much for joining me tonight on Chillin' Tuesdays from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you later.